Good morning and welcome to the show. My name is Sean Smith.
And my name is Prescott Phillips, and this is Brew City Bug Talk.
Hello and welcome back to the show. How's it going today, Prescott?
It's going to be a special show today. I'm pretty excited about it. It's somebody that I looked up to for quite a long time.
Yeah, it's going to be a good show.
Yeah.
So what do we have going on? Do we have anything to talk about before we get into the show?
No, I mean, we went to the show.
What show?
Crystal Lake Neva show over the weekend.
It was a pretty decent turnout.
Yeah,
the weather worked out great.
Yeah, because they rescheduled it.
Yeah.
You know, it rained all day the week before. But yeah, it was a good show. A lot of people. We had, a caravan of, nine
vehicles? Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, we had a nice caravan. The VW Collective of Milwaukee, the club here, joined us, and we all rolled together and went down there, set up shop, and Seward Speed Shop came up there. We got to talk to Adam and Tanner. They brought Bernie. That was kind of cool to see him out there.
Yeah, we pumped our podcast and gave away a bunch of stickers and all that good stuff. Yeah, we had a good time.
Yeah.
We came back with some hardware.
Yeah, they had a nice swap meet there. I scored some cool parts, so I was pretty stoked about that.
Thank God I didn't spend a nickel.
All right, so I guess one other thing we wanted to bring out to you guys is we are pushing for 10,000 downloads. So remember, please tell your family, tell your friends, tell your neighbors to check out the podcast. We're trying to get to 10,000 downloads by the end of the year. I don't think it's going to happen, but hey.
Well, it's a goal.
It's a goal.
You got to make your goals unattainable.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's too easy.
All right. So, who do we have on our show today?
Today we have a special guest all the way from California, the infamous Pat Downs.
Infamous.
How's it going, Pat?
It's going great. How are you?
Good. This is going to be a good show.
Yeah. Welcome to the show, Pat. So we'll get into it right away.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Who are you and what brings you to the Volkswagen world?
Who am I? Well, I'm a guy that's worked on cars since he was 12 years old. Raced since I was 16. Didn't get into Volkswagens until I was about 21.
So that was only like 2 years ago then, right?
You know what? It really feels like it. You know, my career is just kind of flew by. I haven't been having fun. I just had my 40th class reunion this last weekend, and
that's crazy.
And everybody said, you know, you were the one that followed your dream, and because when I was in high school, you know, it was all about cars, and it just.
Yeah,
you know, kind of.
Where'd you go to high school? Where are you from?
I'm right in the middle of California, called the San Joaquin Valley. We're the farming area of California, and I grew up in a little city called Dinuba, and I went to that high school, and that's where I built my shop. Is where I grew up.
Very cool.
And that's your new shop is there?
Yeah, that's my new shop, Pat Downs Performance.
Yeah, and then how long of a walk is it to your shop from home?
Well, I don't live on the property. I still live in a city called Visalia.
Yeah.
Someday I'll live. My mom still lives here. She's 86, and yeah, someday I'll live here. But you know, I'm not wishing that time comes any soon.
Right.
Anytime soon.
So how?
And it's about a 30-minute drive for me to my shop.
Okay,
it's not bad. It's still like a little commute.
Yeah. Now you worked at CB. Was that your first job in the Volkswagen industry, or was that?
That was my first job. Yeah, I was working at a gas station in Dinuba, going to college. Back then, it was full service gas station.
Well, you cleaned the windshield and everything, huh?
Oh, yeah, check the oil, tires, everything. And a friend of mine that I went to school with was working at this company called Claude's Buggies.
Right.
Yeah, and, you know, I was in the cars, and I was putting gas in his car, and I said, hey, I want to work out there. I'm tired of doing this job. And he got me an interview with Rick Tomlinson.
Okay.
he was the son of Bob. And anyway, about 2 weeks later, I was working at CB or Claude's Buggies then.
Right.
Was this before
CB
you were
Performance.
actually racing Volkswagens, or is this kind of what
Yeah.
sparked you into racing for Volkswagens?
Well, I was into V8s when I was a kid,
Okay.
and my local track was Famosa Raceway in Bakersfield.
Yeah, one of the few tracks left now.
Yeah, and I thought I had a pretty fast street car. In 1984, it was a 12-second street car,
Nice.
and yeah, I was just a kid, and I built that car all myself. And anyway, I was racing at a test and tune at Famosa, and I lined up against this primered Volkswagen. And I'm sitting there laughing, with my buddies saying,
Yeah, I'm going to smoke this guy.
yeah, and this thing left on me, and I'm like, holy cow. It probably beat me by five car lengths.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, the thing ran 1170 on me, and I'm like, my God, that car's fast.
Yeah, and what the heck?
So, but yeah, when I started working at CB, we went to a show at Balin's Raceway in Fremont. It's no longer around like most California tracks, but a friend of the company came up and told me, he said, hey, there's a drag bug for sale in the pits. You should go look at it. And that's where it all happened.
Was it a legit drag car?
It was all right. It was a pan car. Just I think I bought it for $800.
Okay, so it was a gutted Beetle.
Yeah, and then I painted it, and I raced it in Pro Eliminator, and won a few events, and then Super Street came out, the PRA Super Street class.
Right, that got serious.
And then things got serious. Back then,
All right, so hold on. To back you up real quick. So what was the car what was it then? So what year bug was it that you bought?
It was a 67.
A 67, and you said it was a pan car.
Yeah.
What motor was in it at the time?
It didn't have an engine. I got it from Greg McNair. Okay. He's a famous guy over in the Bay Area. He's been in VWs forever.
Okay.
And it didn't have an engine, and I think the first engine I built was like a 78 by 94 2165 cc motor.
Mm-hmm.
And it ran, I think, 1180s. I had DeLorto carburetors on it because I always try to represent CB, and we were the big DeLorto carburetor importer. So
yeah, I bought my first set of DeLortos from CB. Yeah, they were
it had
$300 a set.
Yep, man, you should have bought about 200 sets.
Yeah, I should have bought them all. Yeah, they were $299 a set complete. And I wanted to be different, so I bought 45s. Everybody else was buying Webers, and I'm like, I'm going to buy these. They're cheap, and everybody, there's a following behind them. And
not anymore.
Yeah, now though they're a cult carburetor now.
Well, no, I'm saying the price is not cheap anymore.
No, yeah.
Yeah, 45s were probably the best carburetor that they made, I think.
Yeah,
but
very cool.
Yeah, and it had street eliminator heads because back then we didn't come out with the comp eliminator yet. So it was all CB parts. The old rabbit rod crankshaft, believe it or not.
Right. The rabbit rods.
Yeah, it had modified rabbit rods in it, and it was a great little motor.
Sure.
Well, yeah, you said you're running 11s on it. I mean, that's a pretty stout motor there.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And then when Super Street happened, things, got, when Super Street started, I think we were running like 1120s.
So explain to our listeners what Super Street rules were, what the car had to be. No.
Well, it started out as it had to be a pan car.
And it had to be street
I
legal
don't.
ish, right?
No, Super Street wasn't street legal. It was like an entry level into pro stock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of how it ended up. It ended up being pro stock motors in a pan car, but
Pretty much.
the pan ended up being all chopped up and raised torsion and all that crazy stuff, and it kind of, I'm not gonna say it killed the class, but boy, it made it exclusive to the fast guys and the not fast guys. But it was
I think my best time, I ran a 1090 in that class, and everybody at that time, well, the fast guys were about 3/10 faster than me.
Right. And it was just,
that's still pretty quick. Like your pro stock. I mean,
yeah, right.
Nowadays they're like pro stocks. Like, what are you running in your pro stock for ET right now?
My best is a 590.
590
in the eighth. My best in the quarter mile, which was 2013, was a 933.
Right. So it's a big. The engines in Super Street were, like I said, they were just about pro stock because there was no cubic inch limit, right? Or
well, there was a bore limit. It had to be a 94 stud pattern.
Right.
So
right.
that's when guys started, and it's awesome to see the development, how it started.
Yeah.
Jack. Yeah, moved. I mean, the biggest bore you could get was a 96.9 within the studs, and
right, and then they had to put a ruling on the 1/4 inch head studs and all that stuff, So they actually kind of limited. So at 96, everybody was running 96.5s, and then Jack would run 96.9, and then it was right out to the head studs.
What Jack did was, it was cool, man. He we ran no skirt on the cylinder. The case was the skirt.
Right. There was just dowel pins locating everything, right?
Yeah, dowel pins, or he eventually went to just like he machined a register where the cylinder would fit in that register.
Yeah, on the outside of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, it got to be like
science here. You're just rebuilding everything, and how far can you go?
Yeah, how far can you go? Now the Super Streets kind of went by the wayside, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's still some cars out there, but there's no really place for them to race anymore.
Right. So what year were you racing Super Street?
Oh, 1990, I believe. I started.
Okay.
89, 90. I think that's when it first came out.
Because I went to a couple Super Street races at Vegas, and I was pretty blown away at how sophisticated those cars were. I'm like, wow.
All right. Let's get back on track here a little bit. Back to CB Performance. So when you first started working there, it was called a different name. It was
Claude's Buggies.
Claude's Buggies. Now, how long did it stay Claude's Buggies before it transitioned to CB Performance, like we know it nowadays?
I think it was in the process when I started working there, because I think around. And don't quote me on this because I could be wrong, but I think around
we won't hold you to it.
Yeah, I think around 89 it changed names, but
okay.
I'd have to talk to Rick over at CB and find out for sure.
So you when you started there, were you sweeping the floor, or were you answering the phone? I mean, how did you're just a punk kid back then.
Yeah, well, I told Rick in the interview, I said, I know how to build engines, and he said, well, I don't need an engine builder. I need somebody to bubble pack our parts.
Yeah. Right.
So I started doing the bubble packing for, the leakage kits for the carburetors. And
got to start somewhere.
Yeah. So, and how long did you do that before you graduated into the machine shop?
I went into the machine shop about 2 months later. And then I worked in the machine shop for a few years, and then I started working with another gentleman. His name was Tom, and started building engines for the company.
Okay.
Right.
Now, were you doing any development on them, or what did you all produce or help produce during your time there? Like, at what point did you go from just building standard stuff to actually producing and developing cool stuff? I mean,
I think the first product that I helped CB produce was their blow-through Delorto carburetor system. Bob Tomlinson, the owner, and I worked really close together. We built quite a friendship, business friendship, and he and I did the blow-through carburetor kit together, and then from there. And we had some ups and downs. We had some good arguments, but from there we tried remember the drop-in hydraulic lifters?
Yeah, right. Yeah, everybody was jumping on that bandwagon, and it was. And
some worked, some didn't. We tried like hell to make those things work. And
well, sure, it's like Bernie Bergman and Mofoco and everybody tried to sell you a kit. And using different Ford lifters, Type 4 lifters, everybody had a different idea of how to make this all work. And it just boiled down to the design of the air-cooled case. It varied the oil pressure so wildly that you couldn't get any kind of consistent oil pressure. And then that made things just go south from there. So... But
we try. The thing at CB, we always tried to make it easy for the customer to build an engine. So
that sells. That helps sell motors.
Well, that was the
everyday
whole reason
people can make them.
Yeah, behind the rabbit rods was remember the drop-in 1900 or whatever it was. It was
absolutely
and to drop in 88s, and I don't know what stroke that rabbit rod thing was, but it was wild that you could drop in and do zero machining on a 1900. It didn't.
Wow.
Yeah.
It didn't. It was kind of a flash in the pan type of thing, but it was pretty cool, pretty innovative for back.
Yeah,
back
and they worked really well. It was a cool little kit. Sold a lot of those.
Yeah. I remember that was like, oh, you don't have to. You can just do this in a weekend. I'm like, dang, sold. Yeah, sell a lot of them. So
I was going to say it was really interesting how those rods developed. We had, he was an engineer without an engineering degree, but his name was Gene Evans, and he was a teacher at our local junior college, and he had all his students make those connecting rods
in shop class.
In shop class, yeah.
Slave labor.
Pretty sure that's outlawed for some union or something.
Yeah, I'm sure that's against the law now. But CB innovated, or Claude's Buggies innovated a lot of things, and we just wondered where you had your hand in it, especially like the CB 044 heads and all that. Did you have a hand in any of that?
Yeah, the original 044, like we were. I had gone to Bob and I said, Bob, everybody's welding these heads up and it's taking forever, and I couldn't do, because I was porting heads, I couldn't do a big port on the heads we had. So I talked him into letting me weld up a cylinder head, an Autolinea cylinder head, and I said, if we send this to Brazil and have them copy it, I said, we're going to sell more heads than we can dream of.
Yeah, plus bring the price down.
Yeah, and he did. And that was the first head that didn't require, VW casting head that didn't require any welding. And then we got hooked up with CNC porting company, and that's where things really, really took off for the cylinder head development at CB. And I developed all the VW casting ports myself. I learned how to use the flow bench and spent hours and hours on that flow bench developing ports.
Right.
Very cool.
Was it a 110?
The original one was a 110, but then we moved on to a Superflow 600.
Oh, yeah.
With a Flowcom, and I was able to check port velocity, then, and
it was like going from caveman to Renaissance man, going from a 110 to 600.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's the ports started getting so big, I had to start flowing things at 5 inches. Because the machine couldn't support it, and then I had to convert 5 inches over to 10 or 25, whatever we wanted to advertise, and
right.
And then the tooling on that original 44 started to get wore out, and the quality of the casting started to get bad. So I developed the new 044 and the Ponchito. I did that in my engine building shop, and believe it or not, I did it with Bondo. I did.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Oh no shit, man. That's how I did it.
Yeah, that was pretty common back in the day. Just Bondo or JB Weld.
So you just Bondo it up and then shape it to what you wanted it to flow, and then you're like, well, that didn't work. Let me throw more Bondo on it and keep working it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I need to back up, because the original Ponchito was the 043 Mexican casting head. Rick was importing those, and he wanted me to do a small port that we could sell, so I did that Ponch, and he named that head after his cat. His cat was Ponch.
Ponch. Okay.
Yeah, so anyway, that was the original Ponchito, and then those heads dried up. We couldn't get them anymore. And
were they the Chinese 043s?
No, they were the Mexican VW OEM casting.
Okay, yeah, because China has taken over on that and made some really garbage come out, and
these were great heads.
Yeah, they kind of ruined it for everybody looking for a 40 by 35.5 head. And
so anyway, we drained out VW of Mexico, closed up, and we went through all those castings, and then Rick and I decided that, and Bob was still there, I believe, at that time, decided that we were going to do 2 new heads, an 044 that we could make into a really good flowing, street head, and then the Ponchito. So
right, it's two raw castings that could be.
Yeah.
And now the old 44s had how many variations? Like 5 different port designs or something.
On the new head, I wanted to do about 5, and then right before I left, I did that Street Fighter port. Mm-hmm. And I think there was about 6 total ports I did. Right. You can't have too many, people get confused on what
head with what setup you're getting.
Oh yeah, it gets super confusing. Yeah. You got the old wedge ports, the new wedge ports, the wedge port between them 2 wedge ports. Just because
exactly.
you have wedge ports, and people in the know have, they know the word wedge port, but they don't know how many variations that went through, the mini wedge, all of that stuff.
So how many years did you work for CB?
35.
35 years. And what would you say your most memorable product that you helped develop? What would you say that would be?
I'd have to say the new 044 and Ponchito. Those were groundbreaking in the industry, to have an as-cast head, the Ponchito, that could make really good power. It ran cool. It's helped people all over the world with building engines.
Right? You just bolt them on. You just bolt them on and make pretty good power without being a genius.
Exactly. And then the new 044. I moved the exhaust valve over 40 thousandths, so you could fit a 46 intake valve in it. Beefed it up to where it could hold, boost. It was just, it just went beyond what anybody else had done in the industry. And, I think I'm probably most proud of those 2-cylinder heads.
And I think the rest of the manufacturers kind of had to step up their game. You pushed them, and now you got everybody else, MP Brothers, all those guys coming out with CNC heads, and and claiming big claims, and they're all trying to outdo each other, which is fantastic. I mean, people are so lucky now, because back in the day you had to beg, borrow, wait for somebody to hand port your heads, and they were expensive. They took forever to get. You had to trust your head porter, and now it's all CNC. This is what it flows.
Yeah, it used to be an art form. Like guys would, you'd sit there and cut and then test and then cut and test. And,
and these guys, you couldn't. If you made big power, you had to know a good head porter. That's all there was to it.
And that's still the case. I see these cylinder heads on Facebook and Instagram, and they may look nice in a picture, but
oh yeah, I've had all kinds of heads with this giant port, and people go, "Wow, that must make excellent power," and I'm like, "This was the biggest turd I ever built."
Yeah.
What was the guy's name who we had a guest on who was talking about a guy he bought heads from in California that you'd call there, and if it was surfing that day, they didn't answer the phones. Who was that?
No, you're thinking about TPR.
So what was his name?
No, that was a crank guy. The guy you were thinking of is Fumio.
Yeah.
F&F heads. Yeah. He was the old school port guy, and a couple of other guys who was Steve Timms and a couple other or Roger Crawford. These guys, you had to be on their schedule, and you're going to get your head when he's done with it, and it might take forever and be way overpriced, but that's what
he was an artist, and they would do stuff like that.
Now with the CNC stuff, I mean, if they got raw castings, you got heads. A raw castings in a 5-axis CNC machine, boom, you're in business. So So how long ago you left CB? Roughly 5 years ago.
The end of 2021.
Okay.
And you started Pat Downs Performance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I left CB, I was 35 years is a long time to work for someone, and my kids were getting older, and I wanted to be able to spend more time with them, and I still wanted to work. I didn't think I was gonna develop Pat Downs Performance into the way it's going. I just wanted to work, enough to just be busy and be comfortable. But after I left, I really started missing designing parts, because that's my passion. I love cylinder heads. I love designing new parts. I did it forever at CB, and so I came out with my distributor, the Shockwave, and
which is wildly popular. I mean,
it's really growing.
It saved Chuck at Six Summer last year.
Yeah, it saved our buddy Chuck at the track, because Mike Goody had one in the box unopened, and we
were on the line getting to staging line, and something went with his MSD box.
Yeah, we didn't know why it didn't have spark. Let's just change everything in the staging lines.
Yep. So he pulled, and Mike Goody had one of yours brand new in the box. He said, "I have this," and so we ripped out his stuff.
And we were gonna do an unboxing video in the staging lanes.
That's funny.
But we just hotwired it. We hotwired it right to the alternator. Because we wanted to bypass all so we zip tied the coil on.
That's awesome.
We threw a timing light on it. We at least did that. But he had no two-step, no rev limiter, no nothing. It was just right out of the box.
And he ran his fastest pass of the week.
Yeah,
that lap.
Well, he left it he left like a pro stock at like $9,000 because he had no two-step, right? So he just let her fly. He ran 11:48.
Yeah, and he broke out of his.
And he doesn't have a cage, so he can't run any faster than 11:50.
Oh no!
But yeah, it was funny.
That's a cool story.
Yeah, we were laughing about that unboxing video. It's like, if we had our crap together, we could have did a cool little video. But we were just thrashing in the staging lane, so it's pretty cool. But but I tell everybody about your ignition system. I says, dude, everything's in it. The wires, the coil. it's
It's the whole thing.
It's the whole thing. If you think you got a weak spark, just buy that kit. I mean, you had an introductory price that was super low. I'm like, man, you can't touch this, and you can still find them. I see everybody sells them now. CIP1, all those guys. So you must be making quite a, I mean, it's good for you. I'm glad you're because you kind of developed that at CB, right? That ignition.
Yeah, I did the MagnaSpark. That was we had an engineer that I had met, and he was the one that helped develop our EFI systems. He wrote code, and I told him what I wanted to do, and he helped develop that with me, and that was a kind of a revolutionary product at CB too. Nobody had really done a ready to run style distributor yet.
Yeah, of that performance degree, you know. I mean, unless you bought an MSD setup, which is like thousands of dollars once you buy the distributor and the box and coil and all that, the wires.
And then after the MagnaSpark, I worked with him to develop. Do you know the black box?
Right, the black box. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's an awesome little product. They worked out, that product worked out really well, where you can control timing with any distributor.
Right. It's totally separate. I've had people have a little bit of issues with those. Basically, it's their own fault because where they mounted it. You can't mount it on the apron or anywhere warm.
Heat doesn't work out good with electronics.
No.
And then we did the crank. We did the crank trigger ignition kit there.
Yeah, the bolt-on crank trigger deal.
Yeah. That's I'm the one that developed the whole crank trigger portion of that. I wanted something that somebody could just bolt on really simple with any pulley. I got a little bit of static from customers, saying they wanted the trigger wheel to be hidden, but there's no way you can do that and have it universal to fit everything.
Right. It's just where do you stop here? People are always going to find a reason they don't like something.
Yep.
But that's very cool. Now you're
what else are you developing through Pat Downs?
Yeah, I mean, you're developing your own heads now, right?
Yeah, I'm working on my own casting right now, but until then, I'm using the AA 501 and I have my own CNC heads. I have a local company do all my porting for me. Mm-hmm. I don't advertise my heads yet because
they're in development.
I'm so busy. It's just insane. I don't have enough time in the day to get done what I've got now. And if I start advertising heads, I'm going to have to hire.
So how big is your company right now? How many employees or how many are you?
Well, right now it's just me.
It's just you.
It's you and your son, right?
My son helps me, but that little shit got a job, man.
What? Now you're going to have to pay him, too? Jeez.
Well, I was paying him. I was paying him better than his job paid him. But, on his behalf, he started going to college, and he needed a job that worked around his school schedule.
Right.
Okay.
And so he still comes out and helps me a little bit.
Well, yeah, because you have customers that are waiting. Now, you have a deal with building speedster motors, and I every speedster replica I see, they always push the Pat Downs engine that's in it, and I think that's why don't you touch on that little program you got going with those guys?
Well, I built engines for the kit car companies for 35 years, but the one company that I do engines for two big replica car companies.
Yeah, vintage.
One is vintage motor cars in Hawaiian Gardens, and the other one is It's called Special Edition. It's the Beck, the Beck Spider, Beck
Okay.
Speedster.
Sure.
They took over the company. I build their engines. I used to build Intermechanicas, but they, went out of business.
Well, that's Canada for you.
Yeah, but I built a lot of engines for Greg at Vintage. But last year it was close to 100.
Jeez.
Wow.
That's,
You yourself are assembling these motors?
All by myself.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Where do you find time to do anything?
You know what? I at CB I kind of developed an assembly line approach for these type of customers because they're all the same engines. So I build 5 at a time.
Okay.
Right.
And-
I've seen pictures of your shop here with at least 4 at a time.
What size motors are they?
Yeah. 2332.
Okay. So you have it all scienced out assembly line and you can do 5 at a time?
Yeah, I number everything so when it's balanced, it all stays as a unit. And with my son, when he did help me, we could do 5 of those in about 5 days.
Oh wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. But now that I'm doing it on my own, I don't want to stress myself out too much. So it takes me about 6-7 days to get 5 long blocks done.
That's still pretty good.
Now, do you have trouble getting parts like everybody else does?
Well, we did during COVID.
Right.
Greg supplies all the parts to me, and oh yeah, we were going. Like I was calling companies for him, trying to source stuff, and I would say, "Hey, okay, IAP's got this, AA's got that," and now it's smoothed out. Now
I know.
much easier.
Everything's kind of like calmed down. The last MP order I got was actually for the first time ever. They had nothing on back order. We were like, what? How can that be? There's $5,000 worth of stuff here, and it all came in. It was just amazing. We were like blown away. First time ever,
Supply chain is finally working.
So, because over at Stewart's Beach Shop at Adam Cockey, he goes, well, here, Pat wants every single distributor drive I can give him. And I'm like, oh, yeah, he needs them, right?
Oh yeah. I refuse to use aftermarket distributor drive lead-ins and gears. So
the brass gears are just
ridiculous.
Yeah, the brass gears are just ridiculously bad. It's like, why?
Yeah.
It won't go together. Oh, that's because the gear is like way oversized, or you can't get it on the crank. You can't get it on the crank because the hole's too small. It's like, how much of a press fit did they think we need on this? It doesn't need to be 10,000s. So
exactly. The other problem was bearings.
Oh yeah.
The Silverline bearings before they closed up just became just horrible quality.
I don't think they did any QC on them. I think they just shipped everything.
That's probably why they went out.
Well, who cares? They're going out of business.
I had bought some of the Molly Cleveite bearings, and they had dried up. And Mike Herbert from Rancho was at my shop on his way somewhere, and I showed him these, and I'm like, man, I've been trying to find these things. I can't get them. And he said, well, why don't you, there's a phone number here on the box. Why don't you call up Cleveite? So I started going through all the channels, and it took me about a week. Ended up buying all the inventory that they had. I bought 700 main bearing sets.
Right, and lucky for you, you don't need a lot of. You don't need any. You need standard stuff.
Because I'm building all new stuff.
Right.
Here.
Go. What are we gonna do with the line bore stuff and all that? I mean, you think anybody's gonna take over for Silverline? Somebody's got to step up, right?
I'm hearing rumors that there's bearings in development. No one will tell me who's doing it because I'm sure they're all afraid. VW industry companies like to go around you and get your product line. So I hear there's bearings being made, but we'll see.
I mean, because you're stuck buying Kolbenschmidt or something, and they only have a limited varying. They don't have all the sizes that Silverline was coming out with.
Okay.
And it's it's just I hope for your sake you can get bearings for as long as you need to, because that would really slow down production.
So where do you see Pat Downs' performance going in the future here? Like what's coming out? What's your plan?
Well, I'm going to have to hire some. I'm going to have to hire some employees. I know that.
People you can trust.
Definitely my own cylinder head. I really want my own casting, but I don't want to be a follow the leader kind of thing like goes on in this industry. I want it to be unique. I've got the prototype done, so I just want to keep coming out with new products that are better. That people haven't done.
Innovative. That's awesome. Him and I talk about that all the time about that there's not a lot of innovation within the Volkswagen world, and he's like, well, it's been around for 60 years and they kind of scienced it out.
And then there's things that sell and things that don't.
Yep.
I mean, you can have the coolest product on the planet, but if nobody wants to buy it but these two guys, you gotta kind of sell to the masses.
Yep.
You got to be careful because a quality product, you want to get more money for it, but the VW industry will only support so much.
Yeah, when you start, these heads now are $1,000 a heads, and we have guests on the show, and they're like, "Oh yeah, back in the day, we'd pay $300 for a set of heads."
And that's that blows me away as okay, a stock head and a performance head, take out the CNC porting, has the same amount of work, right? It's got the same amount of stud holes, same spark plug holes are spark plug hole.
Yep.
Seat is a seat. Now it might be a little more expensive because it's a non-common seat size, but it's not hundreds of dollars more. But all the processes to build a stock head you have to do to a performance head minus the CNC porting. So why is it 5 times the amount of money? It's like
it's crazy.
It's about double amount of work. At most, but it's supply and demand. I get that,
Well, prices. I really think that the economy's changing. I think prices are gonna come down. If they don't come down, I think they're gonna hold steady for quite a while.
I hope they come down because
the price of things.
I talk about that all the time. I got into this hobby way too late because the prices are so outrageous right now.
Sean doesn't even remember the $50 exhaust system.
Nope, I wish I was around.
And the $300 set of Delordos.
Missed all that.
He missed all that. Yeah. Now there's a used set of Delordos is $800.
Yep.
So that's just the way it is.
Well, no, that's cool that you're developing stuff and you're working to move the industry forward with new development rather than doing the same old thing.
So we're taking it for granted you're never going to retire.
No, I'll never retire.
So is the plan to eventually one day pass the company to your son, or is it just...
Is he taking business courses, I hope?
My son is an athlete, and he wants to get into sports medicine.
Yep. My niece does that. Yeah, I know you're a big baseball guy, and so is your son.
I'm, golf. He started playing golf, and he's already better than me. So, but, I don't see my kids ever getting into this industry, and I never pushed it on them.
No.
It can be tough, this type of work can be tough, and I want to see them succeed and follow kind of their passion like I did, and I don't see them ever working here full time. My wife wouldn't let it happen. My wife
you're not taking over your dad's stupid Volkswagen business.
My wife told my kids, you can do whatever you want to do after you get a college education.
Yep. Well, that's good.
If they want to come here and work for me when they're done with college, they're more than welcome. My son is very
cool.
bright, so I taught him how to build cylinder heads, and I can show him one time how to put in valve seats, how to do a valve job, and he catches on. So.
It's not like he can't do it.
Well, we really hope that he kind of takes over or something, because we don't want to see the pat downs go the way of the cuckoo bird, I guess they would say.
The dodo bird.
The dodo bird. We don't want to lose that part of the industry, because, I mean, obviously.
Well, it's not going to go away, but it might have an employee that takes it on, for me.
All right, I'm moving to California. I'm working for Pat Downs. Right. This is all yours, Prescott.
Yeah, yeah. There's.
I tell you what, it's fun to work here. I've worked with hundreds of employees over the years at CB, and I want to be a boss that teaches people and lets them enjoy what they do and race if they want to. And if you don't have fun enjoy your work, you're never going to succeed at it. You're never going to do good work. So
definitely.
No, you can't.
And I'm glad you brought up racing, because I know we're pressed for time here. You got to get going soon, but I wanted to bring up the fact that, well, first off, congratulations on your win in Texas. That was pretty awesome seeing you, man.
Yeah, you mopped the floor with all those guys. It probably with your own sweat, probably.
Race. Yeah, that race was tough, man. We worked our butts off. Things didn't go real good for us there at first.
Really? What happened?
Off the trailer, the car ran great. It went low ET, number one qualifier, and then it developed not a misfire, but actually like you're just shutting the motor on and off. And we didn't.
It was hot as heck.
Hot,
then. Yeah. It was like you said, electronics and heat do not go together. So it might have had something to do with it.
After the third round of qualifying, I actually hit the 8th mile cone. The car was pulling to the right.
Oh no!
And we found out that the tire was losing air on the starting line on the hit. Yeah, I was down to like 5.5 pounds of air pressure in my driver's side tire.
That's sketchy. Yeah,
that'll push you to the.
It was,
and you're doing 100 plus, and you got a low. No, that's
110, 112. But so we were fighting to keep air in that tire and trying to fix this miss, and it wasn't until the semis against Damon. After second round, I told the guys in my pit, I said, hey, if we don't fix this car, Damon's going to beat us. Because Damon was running better and better and better.
Right.
And Mark Lawless, while I was trying to fix the tire, he said, hey, you need to come look at this. And I went in the trailer and we're looking at the data, and you just had this RPM spike where it went to 0 and then it spiked up to 9,200, and he said, I think the crank sensor is going bad. So we put a new crank sensor in it and raced Damon. I went a 606 to Damon 622. The car ran great,
right?
And
well, there's something we have in common. We both.
What's that?
We both beat Damon in the finals.
Well, that was the semis.
That was the semis. Okay.
Yeah, I had a gentleman in the finals. I
didn't know who that was. Texas guy,
he
right?
raced V8s or something. Yeah. Anyway, I felt bad for him. He had problems. A throttle plate screw fell out there in the staging lanes.
Yeah, and sucked up a screw.
So I had a single. And, Mark came up to my door and he said, hey, what are you going to do? You going to break the beams? I'm like, oh, hell no, man. I'm going to run this thing out.
Yeah, right.
Hell yeah.
So
we don't have a race next weekend. Let's set it on kill.
Yeah. So, we had the tune-up in it that was off the trailer because we had put that in there trying to fix this problem. The motor was way rich, but it still went a 6.0.
602, I think. I thought it was 602.
No, it was 606, I think.
Okay.
Or 605. And we won the event, and it was about 5 a.m. We went to Waffle House and celebrated.
Yeah, it was because I was watching it online, and I'm like, and I think Jason's wife was she put it on Facebook on
Yeah,
live.
somebody Facebook lived it.
And I'm like, it's like 2 a.m. here. I'm like, this is really live or is this recorded? Nope, it's live. I'm like, oh my God. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, so we didn't get done with the final, I think, till 3:30. And then when I parked up to take pictures, my tire was flat on the car. Yeah, it was crazy.
That's sketchy.
Now,
was that the fastest you ran in that car with this current setup?
Oh, no. No, I set the record back in, I think it was 2017 at Farmington. I ran a 590 with a 1. And that record's still holding today.
Nice.
Right. Now, do you plan on going to Corey Mack's race in Vegas?
Man, that brings up a lot of questions. You know, I've talked to Brian Watts, and you know, there's no payouts yet posted.
Yeah, I know. It's very sketchy.
And I don't want to poo-poo on that event, but you know, for the guys coming from the East Coast, Texas, you know, it's really up in the air what's going on.
Right. And people asking me if I'm going to pull down to Vegas. I'm like, are you kidding me? I don't even know if this thing's going to go off. You know, so.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking over there. They really need to be more, what do you call it? They need to let the public know what's going on.
You got to get your shit together is what it comes down to.
Yeah, they didn't need to be proactive because Clint Cox, he says, this is what it's going to be. Guaranteed payout. Guaranteed this. Guaranteed that. You know, and with numbers, you know, thousands of dollars. And
that's what brings people. You have to guarantee a payout. You have to, and it's crickets. And I don't get it.
Well, hopefully they figure it out. That'd be nice to see you back out there on the track.
Yeah, it's not a long haul for you.
No, I would love to go. Vegas is a fun town. That's an awesome track. You know, elevation's going to hurt pro stocks a little bit, but
it's still fun.
Oh yeah. So I hope they get a little more transparent and let people know what they're doing.
Because that's only 6 weeks away or so.
No, it's December something. And that brings up another thing. There was a good point. In December, the guys coming from Texas and the East Coast are going to have to take the 40 to get there in the snow.
Right, right. Yeah, nobody's going to shoot all the way down to the 10 to come back up, you know?
Yeah.
And, take 40 through. I mean, it could be snowing in...
Yep.
Could be snowing in Oklahoma City, you know.
And my questions are all these different classes in one day. You're going to have to start that race so early in the morning. What are the track conditions going to be? Mm-hmm. It's cold in Vegas in December.
Right. Yeah, it can. Especially at night. And so it's the 50-degree temperature swing. You know, it'll go from 40 to 90, you know, at midday. So I mean, it could. So yeah, it's. You know, we'll see if that goes off that race. Yeah. I hope it does.
I hope it does too. I hope it's a good event. I hope it makes Brian and Corey a little money, and I hope it doesn't go off well and give the VW industry a black eye. That's what worries, or it doesn't go off well. If it gives the VW racing,
there's so few and far between events that like you don't want one to not go well.
Yeah, and they're trying, they're trying hard to get this race off, and then it fails. I'm like, it's hard to. The next one is just even harder to get off, you know. So,
all right, well, we are cutting into your time here. I want to make sure we get cut all done here and get you time. So
we can always have you back on the show. You know, anytime you want to be on the show, let us know. And you got some new products, something you want to pump, some race you want to, some event you're attending, you want to promote.
Yeah. I'd love that. Yeah, I could talk for hours with you guys about what's going on and what's coming.
Well, that's typical of our show.
That's our show. We want to put out a show that has a good conversation wherever it goes. So
yeah, right. We talk to people in the industry that have that do cool things and have cool stuff and have cool stories.
All right. So thank you very much for being on the show. We do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Pat. Thank you for taking the time out of your
Yeah,
busy.
yeah.
You know, I'm sure you got 5 motors to build.
Lined up, waiting for you.
I got a guy showing up from Australia tomorrow. That one's stressing me out.
Oh Lord.
But yeah, it was enjoyable, guys. I really appreciate you having me on. I
right.
had
Yeah.
a good time.
Well, thank you very much. And if you like the show and you want to comment on it, feel free to reach out to us at bcbugtalk@gmail.com, or you can check us out on Facebook. Is probably the best way to get a hold of us at Brew City Bug Talk on Facebook. We have our YouTube channel. Like I said, tell your family, tell your friends about it. We're pushing to get to those 10,000 downloads by the end of the year. Anything else you want to add there, Prescott?
No, I just want to thank Pat for being on the show, and we'll talk to you at the next race.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. All right, guys. Take care.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you for being on. Peace out.
Bye-bye.